Hello, my name is Craig Rainey, and I've been in the construction industry for more than 40 years. When homeowners tell me the story of their project, oftentimes it sounds like this. It doesn't have to be that way.
Oh, wise guy, eh?
And most builders would say that. Welcome to Remodeling Wisdom. I'm Craig Rainey. Let's get started. Happy New Year, everyone. I appreciate you taking time to visit with me again. I'm looking forward to a great 2024, and I think I've got a good program for you today, and at least I think it is. Now, this one is going to be geared more towards the homeowner who wants to do the project themselves, manage that project themselves. Either it's because they've heard some really bad things. Let me say this differently. Let's go first person. You may want to do this because you have heard nightmare stories about general contractors stealing your money, and you want to protect your money, protect your investment, and protect your project. It may be that you've got a construction background, and you say, you know what, I'd like to be a GC. I've been in the construction industry. I know the nuts and bolts of it, but I'd like to go and run my own job because I think I can do it. Well, as I've mentioned in other episodes, being a general contractor is more than just driving a flashy truck and going around picking up money and telling guys what to do. There's a lot to it. It's a very technical business. But what we're going to cover today more is the management of your biggest obstacle in the remodeling business, and that's your labor. Labor generally will represent itself as a subcontractor, which my vernacular is I refer to a subcontractor as a trade or an artisan or a contractor. When I'm talking about a general contractor, I typically speak of a remodeler. That's a general contractor for me. Also, I refer to subcontractors as builders. So you'll hear me use words interchangeably. If I say builder, I'm talking about a subcontractor. If I'm talking about a general contractor, that is the remodeler. But anyway, the information I'm about to share with you is something that not a whole lot of remodeling general contractors discuss with their clients. In fact, they almost never do, because the biggest challenge that I face as a remodeling general contractor, and I do this day in and day out. I'm working on projects today. I have spoken with customers and my subcontractors and material providers, and it's gone on today. It's been a long day. This is toward the end of the day, but I did want to get this episode in before I turned the lights off and went home for the day. And but this comes up because I've had some some of my clients mentioned it too, but I've had some email recently, and I say recently, it was in December, and I took December off pretty much, just holidays, that kind of thing. Had family in. My wife is Canadian, so we had some folks in from Canada, and I just took the time off. But I did have a backlog of some suggestions and some questions on this, and a lot of them had to do with doing the project themselves. So we're going to cover that, and not in great detail, but enough detail that it'll give you a good, solid start. Identify some red flags you want to avoid and look out for, that kind of thing, and some positive ways to go and what you should look for in a good fix, a good match between you and your trades if you're running the project yourself. But before we get to that, little housekeeping. Thank you so much for investing a little bit of time in me today. You have a lot of choices out there, and there are some very fine remodeling programs out there on all these different platforms, and you have a lot of choices. And I'm grateful and deeply flattered that you chose this moment to spend with me, and I will do everything I can to make it worth your while. If you want to be notified when new episodes hit, all the platforms are different, whether it's Apple or Audible, any of the other platforms that you go with. I'm drawing a blank here. They don't all allow you to comment to me directly. So what I would recommend is if you do have ideas or comments or that kind of thing, just get hold of me through email. And my email is craig@craigrainey.com. Now, if you don't have a comment and you would like to be kept abreast of what's going on, all the platforms are different. Hit that subscribe, follow, whatever button they have there so that you can be notified that we're there. I don't get that information here So I can't send you spam, so you're safe from me. But for me trying to sell you something, which I wouldn't do anyway. But anyway, just, hit that button in that way and, like or whatever it may be that way. We get a few more hits by the search engines, and they'll say, hey, people are listening to it. Let's get it out there. Although I'm very pleased with what we're doing so far. And lastly, if you want to cyber stalk me, and I do encourage that, there are probably some things about Craig Rainey you do not know, and just go to my website, craigrainey.com, and you'll find a lot of things you go, hey, I didn't know he did that. But importantly, I also have a blog site, and the blog site is associated closely with this podcast. It is more the written word as opposed to the spoken word, yes, but also a lot of the information that I talk about here is represented in pictures and text there. So if you want to focus more on that, or a lot of times I do an ancillary podcast, or I'm sorry, blogs for each podcast I do. I might throw some written information out there, and I'll let you know when I do that. But check that out, and you can find that blog site at craigsbuilderblog.com. It is also at texasbuilderblog.com, but just remember craigsbuilderblog.com, and it'll take you right to it. If you're like me, you're not good with domain names, that kind of thing, just look up Craig Rainey, Remodeling Wisdom, and it'll come right up in any search engine. But anyway, so that's about all I've got on the housekeeping side. But let's go down this road. Let me tell you a short story that'll kind of set this up. So all my clients, when they do business with me, and I know I have this in common with all remodeling general contractors that are out there, they will associate personally with the trades, with the subcontractors, whether it's a demo crew, framer, trim crew, painter, plumber, electrician, HVAC, tile, whatever it may be. They will, the homeowners will associate with these subcontractors. Now, I'm going to share with you something that remodeling contractors don't normally talk to their clients about, and it is a pitfall that we remodelers have in common, and it's something that we lament about, and we spend a lot of time trying to correct it and remedy it. Typically, we fail at it to one extent or another, and I'm no exception to that rule. And what this issue is I'm going to give you an example. So I have a client, and we are at the electrical phase of their job, and it's in remodeling. We don't in new construction. You'll see you put your foundation down. The contractor will build the frame. Generally, will dry it in, put some kind of roofing on there. It may just be felt because they have to paint. You want to paint your shingles. But anyway, so it's dried in, and then you have your trades that come in, your licensed trades, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and they do their thing. And but in remodeling, a lot of times you'll have your electrician that'll come out, and it's not like a new construction where they come in and like an electrician, they'll run their wiring in the foundation if there's something that needs to go in there. They come in, when it's in frame, they come in and they drill holes and run Romex and wire and put J-boxes in and all that. And then after that, sheetrock goes in, and then they paint everything else. Then they put in their plugs and switches, and then they get the trim out, which is to put in the fixtures and this kind of thing. And remodeling, those phases are always mixed up, and for a couple of reasons. If it's a larger scope remodel, and by larger scope, I mean there are a lot more working parts to it. You're not just remodeling a kitchen. You might have a room addition, and then you're also moving some bearing walls, and you're going to do a repaint. You might have some rotten wood you've got to replace. So there's work going on throughout the house. In this particular project I'm doing, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 bathrooms and a powder room, and we're also remodeling their kitchen, and they're living in the house at this time. So it's a little arduous for them, and it's very unpleasant. It is what it is. We try to get our projects done as quickly as we can. So my clients are inconvenienced for as short a duration of time as I can. But still, it becomes arduous. It is tough to live in a construction site, no matter how much they clean. And all of my trades, they all broom clean every day to keep that home as clean as we possibly can, but it's still inconvenient. But anyway, so in the case of the electrician, in this case, my electrician, he is putting in some, I'm a big fan of these 4-inch LED trims. Some of the electricians, they call them LED discs, and I like the 3-inch, 4-inch, so, the little smaller. lighting thing, and that's for another time. Anyway, but my electrician, isn't a fan of those. He doesn't like those. He likes to put in recessed cans. I'm not a fan of recessed cans for several reasons, and I'll get to that. But so I fight that fight with him where I'll say, look, when you're going in, and a lot of times my clients, I have a set of blueprints, I have an electrical schematic, but a lot of times they'll say, well, while you're here, can you move this switch over to here? I like it on the side of the door, which that's not a good example. We don't generally do that. They might say, while you're here, can you put another light here because it's dark? It's not on the drawings, but can you do that? And typically they'll do it. It might be an extra charge. It may not be. It just depends on how detailed and how much effort's going to have to go into putting that change in there. But one way or the other, what I find and what my clients find, and it's rampant through the industry, is these trades begin treating the homeowner as if they are the boss. Now, if you are a homeowner and there's a current remodeling project going, you're saying, well, I am the boss. Well, you are the payer. You're the person that does actually pay for the work. But the general contractor is the boss. And as we go on, you're going to see the sense of this. And I certainly mean no disrespect, because my clients, I rarely have a client that is not college educated, very intelligent, has their own professional very responsible job and very good at what they do. However, most homeowners and most anybody who thinks about the construction industry tends to underestimate the complexity of what we do for a living as remodeling general contractors and trades. And I think it's because familiarity breeds contempt to a certain extent, to where you watch HGTV and you got the hot blonde with the nail bags on and she quickly builds this, or, you merely do this, and within an hour they have the house built. In fact, one of my clients today told me, he said, man, the same one I'm about to tell you the story about, he goes, man, I know we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but, you're never prepared for this. You watch on TV and, they build this thing in an hour. And I said, yeah, I know. It's entertainment. It doesn't reflect the industry in any aspect of what they do, other than the fact that it looks like a remodel. But yeah, it's tough. But staying on topic here. So in this case, we're installing in cabinet and under cabinet lighting. They have a big liquor coffee bar that we put together, glass doors on the upper cabinets all the way through. And now for me, my preference, and this is something, go whichever way you want to, but for me, I like using low voltage LED tape lighting. And I don't like fixtures hanging underneath or over my cabinets. I don't like to drill holes through them and have a light sticking through the top down into the cabinet. I'm not a fan of that. I don't want to see the light fixture. I want to see the result of the lighting. I want to see the effect that the fixture has on the space. And we talked about that towards the end of last year, about lighting, how it's often the overlooked decor item. And so anyway, I got back with him, and electrician had been there, and he had done the rough wiring on the under cabinet and the in cabinet lighting, but it didn't look quite right to me. And I've got a lot of experience in this. Anyway, so I'm looking at it, but we're covering some other details. This is a mid-scope meeting. We're just making sure that the progress is going the direction that my clients would hope it would go, and it needs to go. And I'm trying to manage their expectations in this meeting. But eventually it does come up, and they said, well, the electrician asked me, he goes, so what kind of lighting are you going to provide for this? What kind of fixtures? And I went, okay, what did you tell them? And they said, I told them we didn't know. And I said, okay, good answer. Because we are using low voltage LED strip lighting. And they said, oh, well, how does that work? And we've discussed it before, and it's a call out in the scope of work and in the plans. And I said, well, what it does is we put it in here, and we hide this tape where it can't be seen, and it lights the inside of the cabinet, and underneath it lights the backsplash. That's what gives you that beautiful glow. It's like indirect lighting. And I said, the transformers go up on top of the cabinets because it's low voltage, so it's going to transform that 120 volt current to, I don't know, 80, 75 volts, whatever the lighting will handle. And anyway, they go, oh, well, we didn't know about that. And it doesn't matter that they don't or not, because I did mention it and I told them, but many of the technical terms that are in the remodeling industry, it's hard to keep track of them unless you work in it every day. And I do, and I've been doing this for 43 something years. I don't know how long it is, but so, I mean, I'm very familiar with it. One of the things they asked me, the plumber was supposed to come back, and they said, well, I was talking to your guy that was installing and this is off topic, but similar, same day. And they go, but there was something under the sink that he said wasn't complete because he couldn't hook up the vanity faucet on that. And I said, oh, okay. And I didn't know what it was. So I looked under, and sure enough, it just two plastic hoses looking like sticking out. And of course, those are the plumbing water lines. And I said, oh, well, they need to install the cutoff valve so that we can run our water line from the faucet down to those cutoff valves. And they go, oh, okay. And, so who knows that? They just know something's missing. That's not what they do for a living. And the same thing with the electrical. I told them about the low voltage, under cabinet, and in cabinet lighting, and give them a general idea what it was. But it's one of those where they go, okay, I can't expect them to remember that. That's the point I'm making. So anyway, they talked to me about it, and they said, well, the electrician doesn't know this. And I said, well, it annoys me that they act like they don't know it, but it's in their contract. It is in black and white, and you've got a copy of it. I keep all their paperwork accessible to them on the cloud. I use Dropbox more than anything else, and so they have access to all the subcontractor agreements, everything that's going to go on, scope of work, design, anything that they need to have access to for their records. They have it there, and there's always a soft copy on there. And as the drawing evolves, as it will do, they get copies of that. But anyway, I said, yeah, it's up there. The scope of work for the electrician is up there, and it includes that he's providing this material, and this is what we're doing. And I said, well, why does he act like he doesn't know? And this, okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is what the topic of this episode is. The cardinal rule number one, when you're running a project or a general contractor is running a project, is never, ever let your licensed or unlicensed trades, never let your subcontractors manage your job. They don't know what they are doing in that way. This electrician is a fine electrician. He knows everything he needs to know about electrical work. He knows how to pass inspections. He wouldn't be working for me if he didn't. But what they are not is they are not organized and proficient customer service businesses. That's not what they do. And anybody that's ever had repair work done on your home, let's say an electrician came in and hung a ceiling fan. If that ceiling fan stopped working a week after they installed it, they're going to say, oh, well, there must be something wrong with the fan. Yeah. Well, no, we did it right. I'm just saying, there's something wrong with the fan. You need to have somebody come out there and look at that fan. Well, can you? Well, yeah, I'm going to have to charge you. This conversation is very frustrating. And the reason for it is because these are not business people. These are electricians. And I'm sorry, it's not, maybe sometimes I rail on this too much, but I see it every day. And so when I talk to the electrician tells me, well, it's this and that. I said, we're going to meet over there because I need you to come out and do a partial trim out, partial rough, because I'm missing some things that you're supposed to get done. You didn't get them done. I need to get these done. So he's coming out tomorrow. We're going to handle this thing, and we'll walk through it with the list, and we'll make sure it gets done. That's my job. But anyway, so that's one example. These clients are a little different than some of my other clients because we already have cabinets installed, and it's a brother-in-law deal or something. Some member of their family owns a countertop company. They fabricate and they install countertops. Well, anyway, I only have two quality levels in my business. I have A and F, and if you get an F, you're fired. I don't care if you were Home Depot. If you do something, I will put Home Depot on the no vendor list. And I'm just saying, I have only one level of quality because I am my customer's advocate. I am the knowledgeable one in the industry. I am the one that makes sure that everything gets done. Well, anyway, they insisted on having this countertop company come in and do the work because they're friends. I looked at the quote. Honestly, they didn't get any kind of discount. In fact, I think I probably could have gotten it done more inexpensively if they would have gone with my trade. But this happens every now and then where, I want my brother-in-law to do the electrical or the plumbing or the countertops, or, he's a painter and I want you to come in and get the painting work. The trades that I use are vetted. I use them on a lot of jobs. I don't go out and get a new trade and just throw them on a job and try them out. I have a process where where if I need another painter, for instance, I will work that painter into my organization and into my process little by little. And it's a step-by-step vetting process. And a lot of times they don't make it into the customer's house. They don't get that far. So anyway, I don't have that chance to vet these trades when my customer says, in this case, I want to use this countertop company. So this countertop company, they came in and they did all their measures and everything else, and they did their template, they pulled it. And anyway, so we were ready for countertops, and there were no countertops that were installed. So I had to go back and forth between the owner because they were talking directly. And finally they allowed me to talk to the owner of the company. And when I talked to it, and this is a female-owned company, and she told me, she goes, "Oh, well, we were waiting till the whole thing was done so we could put all the countertops in one day. That's how we do it." And I said, "I see." Well, I said, "That's probably not going to work for your brother-in-law and his wife, because right now they're living in a guest bedroom, and they are using their laundry room for a kitchen, and they're using the powder room for a bathroom. Well, they have a Jack and Jill. We're using half of that for the shower and everything else." I said, "So they're very inconvenienced, and we need to get them back into their master bath and in their kitchen." And those of you who are offended by master bath, I apologize. I'm old. But anyway, so I talked to her at some time, and I said, "So look, we've got these bathrooms ready. We've got this, we've got the kitchen ready to go, and need you to come and put those countertops in." And so she did. There was a lot of trouble. These folks, they're not really good at what they do. And unfortunately, if I brought it up to the homeowners, they were personally offended, because this is family I'm criticizing. But I would tell you this: if I or my trades had treated my customers the way that their friends treated them, I would have been fired from the job. That's true. That's how bad these folks are. Anyway, so they finally did get the kitchen countertops installed, and I think powder room, a couple others, got them installed. And so when I went by today to look at it, those of you who have had countertops installed, you know that if it's a long enough run, they have to put a joint in there between two slabs, whenever they're cut in there. That joint, you should not be able to see it unless you really, really look, and you certainly should not be able to feel it if you rub your fingers over it. This joint right there, just to the right of their sink, and this is the main countertop. It's out in the open. It's going to be seen by everybody. If you dragged a glass along that countertop, it would tip over on this joint. It sits that proud. Now, that's an F to me. And that's not an A. That's not even a B, C, or D. That is an F. You are not good at what you do as a countertop fabricator and installer if that's how you install it. There's a thing called a shim, and I feel like I need to introduce them to that, but they'll never do any work for me. The point is this: I didn't have the chance to manage this trade because they were friends with the owners. And so they came in and they did the bare minimum. They did what they thought they could get away with. And because they did, I don't have any authority to go through it. I told them, I said, "Look, we need to have them come out here and pull this off and redo it and rebuild it." And it's epoxied. I mean, it is in there. And it's expensive. It's quartzite. It's really expensive. It's on there. And, I can see the looks like, so you're being critical of my family. And again, and this is what happens every time. And I'm not complaining about it. I'm just letting you know that it is what it is. Anyway, so this is a case of the homeowner running the job themselves in this particular capacity, getting the countertops put in. I could tell you more stories of this. This is where we were putting the cabinets in, and because of the way the appliances were, we had some off-size cabinets. One cabinet wasn't the same between the refrigerator and the stove. Anyway, so they took it upon themselves to have my cabinet installer move one of those cabinets and put a like-sized cabinet. In other words, it's 18 inches, another 18-inch cabinet over there, and now the refrigerator and range won't fit on that wall. So anyway, that's the type of folks they are. They believe it's a very easy industry. Most people do. But anyway, going back to it, if you're running your own project, you're going to have to make sure that your trades are not making decisions on how things are going to be installed and what's going to be installed. Because if they do that, even if you have a set of construction drawings, which we do, they're still going to make their own decisions. And what determines their decision making is how quickly and easily they can do it, and if they can get it done by draw time so they can pull a check on Friday. Those are their two major concerns. that does not fall into line with the homeowner's concerns, which is having a beautiful finished product that all the lights work and everything. The switches are where we want them, and the ceiling fan doesn't fall to the ceiling, this kind of thing. I'm not saying that that's something that would happen, but it could. You need to have somebody there, whether it's you running the job or a general contractor, so that general contractor, his or her main job is to protect your money and your project. And that's the thing. So going back to if you're doing this yourself, if you're running this project yourself and you have very little knowledge about the trades, and I mean, we use an example, saying, well, I've been a tradesman in the industry this long now, I want to be a general contractor and do things myself. Well, if that tradesperson is a plumber, they're not going to know anything about framing or electrical. If it's a framer, they're not going to know anything about electrical or plumbing or painting or tile. If it's a tile installer, they're not going to know anything about electrical, plumbing, carpentry work, foundations, pulling permits, engineering. They're not going to know any of these things. And those are key elements. Knowing these things are key elements in making sure that you have a successful project. And we've talked about this in the past. So it sounds like, I guess at this point, that I'm saying, well, you really shouldn't do this yourself. And I would say at the gut level, you shouldn't. If you do not have a lot of experience in the general working and operations of a construction zone and a construction project, you have no business trying to run your own project. I don't care if it's a kitchen. There is a pretty good scope of work on a kitchen, from demo to cabinets to electrical, plumbing, foundation issues. If you've got to move, things, you move drains, let's say in this, or plug in the floor. Let's say you have an island, you got to move it. You got to know that. We have one on this job. We have stained concrete, and it's etched with designs in it. So we have places where we have to repair that concrete. Well, if your concrete pourer or whoever's pouring the concrete doesn't know, you got to keep a 3/4 to an inch space. It's got, in other words, your filler's got to be an inch below the surface of your floor, so that concrete stainer can come in and put that leveling solution in there. You're leveling concrete in there, and then they can smooth it out and put that etching in there so it matches the rest of the floor when they stain it. If you just bring that concrete straight up to the level, well, you're going to have some chipping out to do, and it's going to make your final product look bad. You have to know these little things, and it's a small thing, but there are 1,000 these little small things that are in your project. But the biggest thing is this: you never want your trades to manage your job, because they are not qualified to do it any more than my customers here were qualified to manage the job. Their countertop installers weren't even qualified to install countertop properly, because what they did is that is countertop 101. You cannot be able to see your joints. You can't be able to feel those joints particularly. And this is one that it's right there. I mean, it is front and center. The only way it could be more apparent is if we put a spotlight on it, which you can still see without it. But that's the key to it. So what is the solution? Let's say that you are a homeowner that wants to run his or her own project, and you don't have any experience, but you still think you want to do it because you need to save the money, or you just don't trust anybody. Well, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to make sure that, number one, you have a good set of construction drawings, which means you're going to have to go to an architect or an experienced designer who can also put together construction drawings, not just a design, which will give the call-outs for your electrician, your plumber, your HVAC, what they're going to do. You're going to have a really close relationship with that designer, that architect, so that they cover all the bases, all the bells and whistles. This under cabinet lighting and in cabinet lighting, my electrician only put in one junction box for a switch. So that involves two switches. What do you do? Well, there's a mini duplex switch you can put in there, and actually it's pretty cute. It works just fine for this application. They're two small top and bottom on-off switches. One goes to the in cabinet, one goes to the under cabinet, and it'll work just fine. We just got to feed some wire into that box. That's a solution. But the thing is, the homeowner that I talked to said, I guess we're going to have to rip out some tile, which was just installed, and put a new box in. I said, no, here's a solution. So you need to make sure that your architect, your designer, takes all of these things into account. Every switch is where it's supposed to be, and every circuit has a switch. You need to make sure that if it's structural, Let's say that you're taking a bearing wall out because you're trying to expand that kitchen or go open concept. You need to make sure you've got an engineer that can come in and say, okay, well, this is the load rating on it, and this is the construction you have to do. Because you're going to have a call out, a detail, so that your carpenters can build to that detail, and that will pass the engineer's inspection. If you're in a city, the city inspection. Load rating, there's a lot to it. It's not just load. There's massing. There's a lot of things that go with it. Even wind shear. You'd be surprised at that kind of thing. It's just important that you have those things. So what I'm saying is your premium trades are going to get involved there. So you're going to need engineer. You're going to need a designer. You might need an interior designer to help you with your color palette. If you're like me and have just horrible taste when it comes to putting colors together, you're going to need a professional to help you do that. So once you have the design and you have all of the details together, and that architect, when you're working with an architect, you're going to learn a lot about the business and what goes into it. You may not learn everything about architecture, but you will learn a ton about the different aspects of the job and what needs to be done. I've met with many potential clients that already had their drawings pulled up, and they were very knowledgeable with what they were talking to me about. And I had someone say, "Man, have you built before?" And they go, "No, I just spent a lot of time with the architect." And the architect, your premium vendors are a great source of information. So to be successful, make sure that all your prep is done. You've got your drawings, great technical drawings for your electrical, your plumbing, your HVAC, and you've got everything engineered in case, even if you're doing foundation work, get it engineered. You're going to have to do that. If you're in the city, you need that anyway, or you can't get your permit pulled. But anyway, you need to have those things. So those premium vendors will put together the guidebook for what you're going to do. After that, you're going to have to hire these trades. A general contractor hires trades using a different measure than what a homeowner hires a trade for. Every homeowner, without exception, hires based on price. They'll go, okay, well, and I talked to a guy the other day, he wants to put in a new apron because it's cracking on his driveway. The apron is that little slanted part that goes down from the driveway into the street. He said it's cracked, and he talked to one guy, he said, well, we'll just make those cracks bigger, and then we'll fill them up, and then that way it'll fix it. And I said, it's not going to fix it. And he said, well, that's the cheapest way. And I said, it is the cheapest way, but it's not going to fix the problem. It's just, this guy's going to make and I told him this point blank, I said verbatim, he's going to make a paycheck off of you and you're still going to have the problem. And so this is what I recommend. And of course, it was more like, instead of a $800 fix, is more of an $8,000 fix. And he's given that some thought because it's a pretty big chunk of change to come up with. But the thing is, every homeowner is always going to base their hiring decision based on price, because as homeowners, we all believe that all electricians are licensed, so all electricians do things the same. All carpenters, I just look at some work they've done. Hey, okay, they've done it, so it all looks the same. And I just need somebody to give me the best price. And obviously, if some guy shows up and he doesn't have any tools and he's borrowing my tools and my ladder, it might not be the guy that you want. But that is way down on the coal factor. You shouldn't be talking to anybody as a person of trade who doesn't own their own tools and doesn't at least have the trappings of somebody who can do the work. You want to make sure you have that. But anyway, as a general contractor, these are the things I look for. This is my criteria, and I don't want to run long, so I'm just going to be as brief as I can on this. The first thing I do is, and you can't do this unless you have a lot of experience, is I ask them some basic questions about their industry. In the case of a carpenter, I'll say, hey, so, just real quick, seems stupid, but what is the length of an 8-foot stud? Now, most people say 96 inches because that's 8 feet, but it's not. An 8-foot pre-cut stud is 92 5/8 inches. And, it is? Yes, it is. What's the difference between a piece of, let's save time. With electricians, I'll ask them if they know what these LED trims are. Have you ever worked with them? And I need somebody that has, otherwise I can't have them work with me because all of my jobs have them. These are the things that I ask them. And then the next thing after I ask them, just see if they have some basic knowledge about what they do, is I'll say, okay, so typically what type of job do you specialize in? I mean, do you do new construction or remodeling? And the ones that say new construction and remodeling, I typically avoid. And the reason for it is because a remodeling trade is a different animal than a new construction trade. Completely different for a number of reasons. The first one and the most important one is the remodeling tradesperson is used to working with a homeowner in the house. So they clean up after themselves. They don't listen to music while they're in there. They don't cuss. They don't smoke cigarettes or anything else people smoke these days, which I have a real problem with. But they don't do any of these things. And because foremost in my mind is I need to make sure that my client is as comfortable as he or she can be in that house, or both of them can be in that house. And I don't want a bunch of tradespeople sitting on their phone talking, listen to music. Their phone's hanging on their belt. They're listening to music, and whatever. It's not happening. We're not at a discotheque, and it's certainly not. You're not sitting around your living room. So I don't hire those people. And if my trades hire them as employees, I'll tell them, if that person's here, you don't work for me anymore. I'll find somebody else. So the next thing is you want to make sure that they are a remodeling subcontractor, not a new construction subcontractor. The new construction subcontractor, they are used to going in a process. They're not going to work with you as far as phases with the electrician. For instance, as I mentioned before, a new construction electrician comes in, they run their concrete stuff. If you need electrical, they don't always do it. Sometimes you need electrical going through the concrete. Then they'll come and they'll do their top out. They'll do the framing in the walls. They'll set all their plugs and run all their Romex and do all that kind of stuff. They'll put all their J boxes in place. And then once the sheetrock is in, they'll come in and they'll put in their, they'll put in the plugs and the switches and this and that. And then finally they'll do their trim out, which is installing all of the fixtures and mainly it's fixtures, and then putting the wall plates on and, installing ceiling fans. That's a trim out for them. On your remodeling electrician, they're going to have to know that they're going to have to mix that up. There are going to be times when, for instance, my electrician's going to come in tomorrow. He's going to have to install some plugs in places, including that mini duplex he's going to put in. I talked about. He's going to have to go in and he missed a light in the toilet room. I need him to put a light in, so that's rough in, but he's also got to rough in it and trim it out at the same time. So your remodeling contractors are used to that, and they won't give you pushback saying, well, I normally do it all at one time. Like my clients, countertop people said, well, I do it all at one time, because they are not a remodeling-oriented countertop company. They want to do it all at one time, and if you didn't have a general contractor to poke them in the eye and say, no, you're going to do it my way or I'll find somebody else, then you're going to end up not having countertops in your house until the paint is done and everything's done, and the last thing you do is countertops, which means you can't live in that house. That's what it comes down to. So next thing, are they remodeling or are they new construction? And finally, you need to ask them this, and this is a big one for me. I ask them, what is the typical size job that you do? And I don't just leave it there. I said, so what's a typical size job do you do? Do you do multi kitchens and bathrooms at the same time? Do you primarily do utility work where you bring in panels, this kind of thing? What is the big thing that you do? Do you do handyman work? I mean, what do you do? And this is what you're learning from them. If you find somebody, they say, well, I do really small jobs, and I typically handyman. I'll hang a ceiling fan here or there. I do this. And, of course, I usually follow that up with, well, are you licensed? Because usually your handyman, electrical or plumber, they're not licensed. And some are. I've got a guy that I send for my retail work all the time. I'll just refer him. But he strictly does that. But typically those folks are not tooled, manned, or experienced in working on a larger scope project. And that is a red flag, because these folks won't know how to manage it, and there will be frustration on their part, and there will be frustration on your part. So generally what I like to hear is this. They go, yeah, I do nothing but remodels. I work with general contractors quite a bit. And by the way, that's another one. If they say they work with homeowners a lot, I don't use them, because it means they're going to be very high priced. They're not going to give me my builder's price. It's not a big discount, but the thing is, they're used to draw schedules. They're not going to beat up on my customers to try to get money out of them when I'm not around. There are a lot of things that go on there. There are a lot of moving parts here, but I'm just giving you the basics. So, make sure that they're used to doing mid to large scope projects, and they are used to the fact that you're going to want to live in a certain part of the house. And then as the project goes, you're going to want that other part finished. You want your kitchen finished up so you can start using it. And you want that, that primary bath finished up so you can get back into it and out of the Jack and Jill and out of the utility room. So these are some things that you need to ask. Just, talk to them about it. And the last thing that I would say about this is this: use your gut. the way that these folks answer the question, if they're open to it, if they're saying, yeah, we run into this thing a lot, and we're going to make sure that we do that for you. That's not a problem. We will set up our contract with you where the draw schedule has to do with, we'll do it in segments, but still give you a decent price in the overall. Well, this kind of thing. If they're understanding, it means they're going to help you through the project. I'm not saying that they should manage your project, but they're going to help you to manage your project. And as someone that doesn't have a lot of experience in this, you need that help, because these folks are experts at what they do, and you want them to help guide you through what they do as far as not the process, but as far as scheduling the scope of work and this kind of thing. And the countertop company that I was talking about, they were adamant that they would not come in and do part of it. And my answer to him was this, because I'm a general contractor. This was behind the scenes. I said, look, this is the way I do everything. And if you aren't capable of doing it for the price you give me, charge more so that so you cover your costs on having to come out multiple times to the job site to do how I need it done. I'm not asking you to give me the cheapest price. I'm asking you to give me the best work, which based on what I saw, they're not capable of doing. So this isn't the most upbeat episode I had, but this is something that serves you. It serves you, the homeowner. It serves you, the person who's going to manage this job. If you're a general contractor and you're getting this tip, take this tip. It works. And use these questions. They work. And just a little bit of that I've given you, which is, there's so much more detail that I go into with my clients. But after 40 something years, I'm pretty good at it. And so I can ask these questions, and I can see a, let me just say, a colorful answer coming in from a mile away. And I will call them on it and say, well, yeah, that's not exactly true. What I'm asking you is this. And they're going to tell me that. I said, well, that's not the way we're going to do it here. We do it this way. We do it my way, because my way makes sure that my clients are satisfied and I don't get yelled at. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the biggest thing with me. If my clients yell at me because one of my trades doesn't do something correctly, or they make a mistake, or like what happened the other day, that I had a client waited all Saturday for it's a different project, for one of my countertop fabricators to show up, and they didn't call or anything else. Well, that's enough, and that means they no longer work with me. They're on my no vendor list. So I need to make sure that those folks can represent me the way I need to be represented. As somebody managing your own project, you want to make sure that you're also not waiting around, because that's going to tie up your entire project. With that countertop that didn't go on Saturday, my plumber, electrician, and my mirror installer that I had scheduled for the following 2 days, I had to push them off. And so, I mean, it slows the project down. If you have any questions about this, because this is very complex, very complicated, a lot of detail, send your email to me, Craig@CraigRennie.com, and I can give you some ideas. Give me some specifics, and I'll tell you how I would handle it if that's something that you feel might be of benefit to you. But until then, again, Happy New Year. I'm so happy that you're here. And let's be more upbeat on the next one. I've got some great topics coming up, and keep those emails coming. Thank you. Bye.